This book has about 250 pages in it, and if a sidewalk is raised even half an inch higher than the height of this book, it's technically against federal law. The same goes for a gap wider than this book. Great book, by the way. In your hand, the height of this doesn't really feel like a lot, but when concrete has shifted this much or more, a sidewalk starts to feel less like a path and more like an out-of-service escalator. If you can take the stairs, that's no big deal. But if you rely on the escalator to get to the next floor, well, your chances of getting there just got a lot harder. I figuratively stumbled across ADA sidewalk requirements right after both of my kids literally tripped on the same walk but in different spots. And that got me wondering, who is responsible for this? Is it my neighbor, my HOA, is it the city? Or maybe more importantly, who is responsible for this everywhere else? Naturally, I Googled it, and that search turned into something way bigger than I expected. But the first thing I found wasn't really a surprise: trip hazards. ADA rules say any vertical change over 1/4 of an inch can be flagged, and if it's beveled or sloped just right, it can get up to half an inch. Now, half an inch does seem small, but trust me when I say it can be a big problem for toddlers running away from their parents or someone walking with a cane. It doesn't really take much to send momentum the wrong way and turn what was bound to be a nice leisurely stroll into a long walk back home. Remember this? The same goes for a gap wider than this book. Great book, by the way. Gaps, cracks, and expansion joints that are more than half an inch wide can trap wheelchair casters or even a shoe heel. And it's not just about the tripping, because walkers can get caught and twisted in these gaps as well. We're not really close enough to see what sidewalks are made of. Now, the ADA calls for hard, stable materials, so concrete or asphalt work there. But loose gravel is a different story. Even something like cobblestones feel more like a roller coaster than a walkway. Speaking of stability, there is no universal slip score, but the ADA makes slip resistance parameters pretty clear. Just enough texture to grip your shoe can be the difference between slick and safe. Now, at this point in my research, I can admit I'd kind of forgotten what I was looking for altogether, and then I realized that I didn't even know what ADA stood for. It's the Americans with Disabilities Act, by the way. Now, what started as a search for what made my sidewalk unsafe for my kids turned into something much bigger. What makes a sidewalk safe and accessible for everyone? These rules aren't just about preventing trips and falls, they're specifically designed to make sidewalks usable for people with disabilities by making sure they're smooth enough for wheels, stable underfoot, and easy to follow. When and where these requirements are enforced varies. So once I saw it that way, the rules stopped feeling random and started feeling like common sense. And once you know the problem they're solving, you start to wonder, how many other sidewalk-specific details have you never noticed? Did you know sidewalks can't rise more than 1 inch for every 20 inches of length? That's called slope, the tilt in the direction you're walking. Anything more than that, and it really starts to feel like a ramp, which triggers a whole different set of rules. Because if your sidewalk hits a curb, you need a curb ramp, not just a sloped surface, but one with textured warnings and color contrast to help people with vision loss know that they're entering the street. And finally, I found out that most sidewalks need to be 36 inches wide. They can be 32 inches for a brief stretch, but only if there are wider spots to make up for it nearby. And if that path is under 5 feet wide, there needs to be passing spaces every 200 feet, either a 5x5 square or a T-shaped intersection. A sidewalk that works for everyone needs space, stability, and support. Maybe you've got a tiny bump that you've stepped over 100 times. That might be harmless to you, or it might be the reason that someone avoids your front door, your business, or the neighborhood park altogether. So now what? What do we do with all this information? There are more options to repair that concrete than most people realize, and some of them are actually a lot simpler than tearing it all out, which could be a major bonus if you're managing concrete in places like schools, businesses, or medical offices. Concrete leveling can lift low spots and smooth trip hazards without the full tear out for a fraction of the cost, and oftentimes can be used in the same day. Caulking helps seal cracks and joints, but it's really most effective for smaller gaps, because once a gap gets too wide, it's a little bit harder to keep it sealed, and it can catch heels, wheels, and everything in between. When it comes to slip resistance, surface coatings are a way to add texture. And if the slope or the original layout is just too far gone, full replacement may be exactly what you need, and you can design it right from the very beginning. If you're not sure which path is the right path, that's normal, because a crew like A1 or another trusted local pro can really help you figure it out. And if this video helped you look at sidewalks a little differently, that's a good start. If you ever want a second set of eyes on your own concrete just to understand what's going on, now you know what to do and what questions to ask. Speaking of questions, drop your questions right here in the comments, or you can save this for later, share it with a neighbor, or hit subscribe, and I'll see you around. Thanks for watching.